Today on the Marine Ad Network's marketing webinar series. Today's webinar is titled Why Search Engine Optimization, SEO, is a Must for Every Website. And I'm here today with Melanie Kyle of Kyle Media, owner of the Marine Ad Network and sponsors of these monthly webinars. So this is a recording that we've done after the date of the event, so please feel free to send this out to anyone you think might benefit from this information. We are doing these webinars on a monthly basis, and we do hope that you'll share the information and join us again in the future. Okay, so let's get started. What is SEO? Search Engine Optimization. Basically, SEO is how people find you on the internet. It's a storefront, and being on the internet is sort of like what was in the old days being in the yellow pages. If you're not there, then people can't find you. And so following along that logic, if your website isn't optimized so that these internet crawlers like Google or Bing or any of these other ones can find you, then really it's hard to do business. Now, for some companies, the website is just sort of brochureware, right? I mean, they're not exactly how people find you, especially if you're in things like a medical field, for example. But it is important that your website's optimized if you do have competition, because that's how Google's going to find you over and above whoever your competitor is. Now, talking about SEO, I'm going to talk a lot about Google because Google is the elephant in the room. More than 90% of Google search engines are run on Google, right? So there are some other smaller players in the market, and you do want to be optimized for them also. But most of my focus here and most SEO focus is on making sure that Google can find you and crawl through your website and measure you effectively, especially against your competition. So along those lines, I decided to show you what happens when I Googled, why is SEO important? And I did this for a couple of reasons. One, because it shows you here exactly what search engine optimization is. So you can see the description for yourself, and you can maybe go to that link or others if you Google it. But I also did this for another whole reason. And that is to show you that you are actually in competition with Google. What do I mean by that? Well, when I Googled why SEO is important, I got this website to come up, probably because they're doing some advertising. And then all of the results below it were all actually created by Google to answer your question. And you can look and sort of drop down any of those things and never end up clicking through. So one of the big aha moments that's happening now in the SEO world is there are fewer, what they're calling click-throughs to websites, because Google itself is analyzing and answering a lot of these questions, so you never have to go to a website. So that's a little counterintuitive because, you know, no one's going to come to your business if you can't be served up by Google. But I wanted you to be aware that not only do you have to understand how Google ranks you, but you have to understand that you want to get up there in the top of the page, the first page of Google search, because Google's also serving up answers to some of these very popular questions. So let's take it from here and look at what some of those Google search results are. So here are some of the results that came up. And if you're like most people tend to click on the results that come up on the first page. So here are the first page results. And every once in a blue moon, people will go to the second page of Google results. But, you know, there's a joke among SEO people, which is, you know, where should you hide a dead body? And that's at the third page of Google. No one goes to the third page or beyond. And that's just sort of a habit of people who are in a hurry and they want their questions answered. So here again are some interesting tidbits for you to look at later if you'd like about why SEO is important. You see they mention here Google, Yahoo, and Bing, but Google is the biggest player. And SEO is important still when it comes to making sure that your website is seen, when it comes to what we call organic search, which is different than paying for Google advertising or paying for any other type of advertising. So I'm going to walk you through a few of these sort of things to know. And I have to, give credit to Moz for this. Moz is really the leader in the industry, and I've actually given you the link there so you can look at their on-page SEO for 2019. They do a really nice whiteboard series every Friday where they do a video in front of a whiteboard and talk about SEO. They really are sort of the big gorilla when it comes to SEO. So I'm just going to summarize some of their points, and there's a lot to go through here, and I'm not going to give you the technical aspects, but I basically want to show you all of the elements involved when it comes to SEO and why it's important for you to think about for your website. So the first thing to know is, how are Google and other internet crawlers going to really go through your website? You have to prep them for it. And that is, your web content has to meet the accessibility guidelines. It has to be responsive to mobile design. What that means is it's got to show up well on a tablet and a phone as well as on the laptop, because if it's not, Google's actually going to ding you for that. You need to be able to, as of a year or two ago, your site has to be responsive for you to actually be accessible in Google. You have to have a clear call to action on the page. A lot of pages don't have this, but it's important, as it says here, if you want people to buy these crystals, there should be a button or a link so people can actually buy those crystals. That's important. Google will check for that. Some other things that Google checks for and looks at is when you do the search engine page that comes up, are you providing the right types of answers and materials? Are there images? Are there videos? Is there content? Do you have multimedia for your search engine result page? The page speed. If your page has a video on it and it takes forever for it to upload, okay, people's attention span isn't that long anymore. If a goldfish has a 9-second attention span, they've now seen people have an 8-second attention span. So Google pays attention to how hard it is for your page to upload. Do you have sharing buttons? It's really important that people can share these social sharing buttons on any social channel like Facebook or Instagram or any of the other ones. It's important for those to be on your page. Again, Google looks for all these things. So, how good is your content? Well, Google does care about your content, and that means that you can't be stuffing keywords left and right. You have to provide high quality content. So again, the example here, if you go to Google and you search chakra stones, is there good content about those stones? And so after that, you want to optimize for intent. So do you want people, are you selling stones? Are you giving information on those stones? Do you have informational videos? You should be making sure that whatever content you put on your page is high quality, and people understand when they go to your page what they're going to get. Is it information? Are they going to buy them? Are you giving advice on it, etc.? So when it comes to your content, there are certain things you can make sure are included so that when people are searching on Google, it'll come up. Things like tags and meta descriptions are important. They have to do with labeling everything, including the images, for example. Header tags. You tell Google, this is the title of the page, this is the subhead of the page. Those types of taggings are very, very important so the Google understands the order and what's most important on your page when it comes to subheads. You want to optimize the images so they don't take forever when they're downloading. And as I said earlier, add alt text to every image that you have. So especially for ADA compliance, you meet all those standards when it comes to your website. The other thing that's sort of a more recent development is you want to review your content for freshness. And what this means is Google will actually sort of raise your authority in terms of the algorithm if you're updating on an ongoing basis. That doesn't mean you have to do it daily, but it certainly helps if, let's say, you're writing a blog, if you post that blog every week. That gives Google a new reason to crawl through the entire website. Maybe you have links from one blog to another blog. Even better, those backlinks are good. Another good thing you can have is frequently asked questions or commonly asked questions, because those actually might be exactly the types of questions people are putting in the Google query box. How do I do this? How do I do that? That should lead to a how do I something video, for example, on YouTube or maybe on your website. So if you ask the same questions that your your prospects might be asking, well, that's the best way for Google to actually find you and to give you credit. So those, I know I went through them very quickly, but those are just some of the ways that you can make sure that Google is finding you. And I hope what you've seen by that, some of which is very technical and some of which isn't, is that SEO is part science and part art. The science, of course, is you have to have all that tagging in the background. You have to make sure that, you know, the H2s and N1s and all those things are done. And when it comes to content and the way your site navigates and looks, that's kind of an art. You want it so that it's intuitive from a design perspective, so people don't get lost, so they can find what they're looking for. So one way you can know if your SEO is good is if you're doing Google AdWords, or what we call PPC, pay-per-click, you can use it as your guide. If you're getting really good results and people who search on, you know, dog biscuits are coming to your site and finding dog biscuits, that will be reflective in your cost per click. You're giving people a very good experience. So one way of understanding how good your SEO is how good is your pay-per-click doing? They go hand in hand. And the other thing is, if your site is not set up well with from an SEO, from an optimization perspective, similarly, your pay-per-click won't be very good because, for example, people may be searching for one thing and they get to your website and they find something totally different. So they're disappointed. So it's not going well. So that's just one sort of litmus you can use. So that's pretty much why SEO is important for you. If it used to be that your location was, you know, on a street, so you had the yellow pages finding you, now your location is online. And so you want to have anyone who's searching online to find you. So that's pretty much the end of my presentation. And what I've done is I've gone back to questions that people have asked me in the past that I think might be of interest. So one of the questions I've gotten in the past is there anything that you can do that's bad for SEO? And the answer is yes. There are certain things that are bad from an SEO perspective. You want to have content only on one place on your website. If you repeat it over and over again, that's very bad. The exact same block of content. So make sure that if you have certain blocks of content, they're unique and they're not copied. Another thing you can do is, I've seen beautiful websites that are full of images and videos, etc. Realize Google doesn't read videos and images. Google reads words. So while all that's great from a user perspective, it might be horrible from an SEO perspective in terms of people finding you. So be very careful when you have web designers, you know, selling you these gorgeous gorgeous websites and images and videos, that you make sure you have just as much writing there as possible, or it'll be a beautiful website that no one will ever find. Um, the other last thing I will tell you is be very careful of how you use your website. If you're going to do emails, don't use your website email address, because if you're not using a third-party platform, like a Constant Contact, for example, that is, again, very bad for your Google rating and your Google authority, and you will get sort of blacklisted for that. So the last thing in terms of what you can do that's bad for your SEO is make sure that your website is very mobile friendly. If it's an older website, it's time to do a facelift and update it so it's better. Another frequent question I get is, can I do SEO myself? I'm using WordPress and there's a Yoast widget in the background. And the answer is absolutely, you can do it by yourself. But make sure that you then follow all of the things that are in the Yoast widget and you do them. And as I showed you earlier, there are elements that are not going to be in Yoast. So for example, you should be refreshing your content every week. That's not going to be something that WordPress will, the mechanical area in the background will do for you. You should be making sure you have the best content. You should make sure you're answering frequently asked questions. All those things that are more content focused, unfortunately, Yoast can't help you with. And that's pretty much it. We know your time is valuable, and so I'm just going to end it there. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, that you'll share it with friends. And please join us for our next live webinar on April 11th, when we'll be doing something a little different. We're talking about advanced marketing techniques and case studies for the marine industry. In the meantime, if you'd like some better results from your marketing, or just an overall marketing strategy so that you can get more people coming to your business, please do feel free to reach out to me at janetgranger.com. And thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in April. Have a great day.